Good morning, sunshine. Welcome back to Tiger's Cult. I'm your friendly internet paranormal researcher and investigator, Dr. Morris, and today's entity is the Ahuizotl. Again, referring to our three main reference texts, Illy's Encyclopedia of Spirits, Bain's Encyclopedia of Spirits and Ghosts in World Mythology, and Guiley's Encyclopedia of Ghosts and Spirits, and a smattering of further research, I'm going to tell you where it comes from, how to identify it, what it does, we'll address any ethical concerns, and then we'll make sure we go over safe interaction with the entity if you should ever come across it during your travels. Now, let's get into the origins. This entity comes from the Aztec people, and a significant amount of the data comes to us from Book 11 of the Florentine Codex, researched and written in the latter half of the 1500s by Bernardo de Sahagún, a Franciscan friar. He originally called his work La Historia General de las Cosas de Nueva España, or the General History of the Things of New Spain. And he worked on this project from 1545 up until his death in 1590. The Florentine Codex has over 2,500 pages across 12 books and over 2,000 hand-drawn images that were drawn by native Aztec artists. H.B. Nicholson of the University of Colorado describes the Codex as one of the most remarkable accounts of a non-Western culture ever composed. As such, this is precisely the type of primary source we here at Tiger's Occult Books and Research look for. Book 1 has a comprehensive listing of Aztec gods, Book 3 contains information on the origins of the gods, and Book 11 has a listing of entities and animals expected to be encountered in the Aztec region. I think in our further pursuits, you'll see the Florentine Codex used as a primary reference point. Fortunately, the Getty Library has digitized a copy of the Codex, allowing unpaid researchers like me the opportunity to look into the topic without dipping into my nearly non-existent salary. They don't pay me much, and I have made poor life decisions. Stay in school, they said. Anyway, the other document we'll be using is called the Codex Telleriano Remensis, but only for imagery purposes. Like the Florentine Codex, this was also a tome written in the 1500s and records much about Aztec culture. Physical identification methods. I'm excited for this because the Florentine Codex actually has several interesting pictures drawn by the local Aztec population. Again, these come from the Getty digitization of the Florentine Codex. As we can see with our first image, well, kinda looks like an otter or something similar. The Florentine Codex describes it like a little dog. Its fur sheds very easily and is short. Its little ears are tiny and pointy. Its body is black and very smooth. It has a long tail, and at the tip of the tail there is a hand, like a person's hand. It has feet and hands, and its feet and hands are like a monkey. Here, the Codex Telleriano Remensis, you know my pronunciation's terrible, gives us maybe a more accurate depiction of the entity. Now, the Codex Telleriano Remensis seems to use the image as a symbol of the ruler. Translated by independent researcher Donald Keith Mills, the text indicates that in the year of 7 rabbits and 1486, the ruler Tezoctic died and as Ahuizotl was elected lord. So for entity identification purposes, I believe this is definitely a reference to the ruler, not the entity. Illy's also points out that Ahuizotl is the name of the Aztec ruler who ruled right before the conquistadors arrived. The Ahuizotl may have been his Nahual, his sacred soul animal. Either way, the image serves us well as a depiction of the critter. Anyway, Illy's indicates that this entity is a guardian of freshwater fish, and it doesn't seem to like fishermen too much. Seems to have a tendency of actively attacking and drowning fishermen, or even people who get too close to the water's edge. We'll get more into that when we get into the folklore. So for identification purposes, because it seems to be an animal spirit, we're going to go ahead and assign it Class 6. It does actually seem corporeal, so that's its description, and it's a protective guardian spirit. So putting that all together, I'm going to go with a Class 6 corporeal protector spirit. Illy's also points out that this may actually be a cryptid, so keep that in mind. We'll treat it as a cryptid for safe interaction purposes. Folklore, tales, and legends. The Florentine Codex actually has a lot to say on the topic. According to the Codex, it lives in deep water springs, and if any person arrives at the edge of the water where it lives, it immediately snatches this person with the hand of its tail, drags him or her underwater, and into the deep. Apparently, it causes a bit of a ruckus, too. Stirs up the water, disturbs the frogs and fish, that sort of thing. The victim dies almost immediately. Then the Codex says a few days later, the water spits out the body of the one who was drowned, which comes out without eyes, without teeth, and without nails. The Ahuizotl took that all away from that person. The body has no open wounds, but is otherwise covered in bruises. So if this fella catches you fishing or just near the water's edge, it's going to try and grab you, drag you into the water while simultaneously beating you to death. Look, I don't know about you, but I just have a personal thing about being drowned. Not my preferred way to go, I'll tell you that. So anyway, once the water spits this person's lifeless, eyeless, nailless, toothless corpse out, the Codex says that moving the body is truly a terrible idea. If you do, the Ahuizotl is liable to drag the next person down and do the same, or if it doesn't, that person will be afflicted by gout. You're supposed to notify the satraps of the idols, which I read to be basically the local priests, and they had a method of recovering the body with a litter of cattails, and they'd play flutes. The people say there's two reasons the person died in this manner. Either one, the person was good, and the Teal'c gods wanted a companion in their earthly paradise, or two, it's because the person had precious stones, and the Teal'c gods didn't want people to have those stones. The note next, the translation here says that the Nahuatl text reads, you know what, my pronunciation is already bad. I'm not going to try to butcher that, but the literal translation is, and so they were very careful not to bathe often. Take that for what you will. The Codex also tells us if people didn't come by the water and it couldn't kill anyone, it would gather fish and put them near the top of the water as bait for the fishermen. When the fishermen came by to catch all the fish, the Ahuizotl would come up and drown them. And the other ruse it had, it would come out of the water and mimic a child's cry. When someone went to help, well, that's when the Ahuizotl would pop out and drown them. He really likes drowning people. Curiously, if someone actually saw the Ahuizotl and didn't get scared, and the Ahuizotl didn't kill them on sight, it would act almost like a psychopomp of sorts. Like a banshee, to see the Ahuizotl meant that that person was going to die soon. Pleasant entity all the way around. So, moving right along into the ethical considerations. All right, look, it's a protector spirit. My inner NCO wants to tell you, again, don't mess with the wildlife. If you can manage to not anger this entity into striking, so much the better. As with all of the entities we here at Tiger's Occult Books and Research cover, we advise avoidance for everything. Don't go chasing ghosts, kids. That being said, the Ahuizotl seems a bit mean-spirited to the point of baiting humans to kill. If you should find yourself in such a situation, yeah, you're gonna have to defend yourself. Which brings us to our safe interaction methods. There's no real safe way to interact with this entity. Because it's also hypothesized to be a cryptid, and none of the codices give us any particular specialty metal or conditions that it's weak to, I'd say that opens us up to several options. Now, come on, don't go hunting this thing. That's not really cool. But if for whatever reason, having inadvertently pissed this thing off, you find yourself in danger, protect yourself. I, for one, do not want to be beaten to death while I'm simultaneously drowned, and I doubt you do too. The shotgun is going to be a little bit long and bulky, and I'm not sure you're going to have the time, space, or situational awareness to deploy one correctly. If it's actively dragging you underwater while beating you to death, it's going to be a struggle for your life. It's going to be short, confusing, violent. Visibility will be next to nil. You're going to have to fight for your life by feel, and you're not going to have a lot of time in which to do so. You're going to want something with a short, fixed barrel for the ability to make a contact shot, and a whole lot of horsepower behind it. My personal favorite for such employment would be my Magnum Research Mark 19 Desert Eagle, preferably in 50 Action Express. The rebated rim eliminates a lot of the feed issues that rim cartridges have in autoloaders. Outside of the Desert Eagle, just about every other semi-auto has a tilting barrel, so they're no good for contact shots. The next best bet is probably, I would say, your Smith & Wesson Model 500 or 460, but I would advise against the 8-inch barrel. Maybe the 6 or 6.5 or maybe the 4-inch barrel would be better for maneuverability. After that, we're looking at any of the offerings from Colt or Smith & Wesson in 44 Magnum. Maybe if it's all you got, you might be able to get away with a 357 Magnum. But remember, this thing is powerful enough to drag full-grown men to their deaths, so I would recommend something with a little bit more horsepower. Anyway, that's about all the information I was able to dig up about the Ahuizotl. I hope you found it informative. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. Till next time, fellas, I'll see you down here at the lab.